Developing right now on Morning News Now, deepening doubts over the Strait of Hormuz and the war with Iran. This morning, Tehran listing a series of elevated demands to reopen the critical waterway as President Trump faces renewed criticism from lawmakers.
Donald Trump has lost this war. America is weaker. Iran is stronger. I am prepared to support a bad deal to end this war and reopen the strait, because the only deal that is available at this point in time is a terrible bad deal.
Plus, the president's former personal attorney officially sworn in as the new attorney general. We will take you to Washington. Also developing wildfires and warnings. This morning, crews struggling to contain a series of wildfires burning across several states as tens of millions of people brace for another day of extreme heat. Angie's tracking the conditions, the dangers, and what to expect as you start your work week. Plus, a health threat. Officials sounding the alarm as cases of a deadly drug-resistant fungal infection are on the rise across the U.S. The warning from the CDC and what doctors want you to know. And classroom controversy this morning. Popular AI detection tools under new scrutiny after one student says she was wrongly accused of cheating. We'll get you more on the growing push to change school policy on the technology. Conversation we're having just about every day, AI something.
It is difficult to tell. Did someone use AI or not? Even the technology doesn't always seem to work. Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Monday. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're happy you're starting your week with us. We are going to begin this hour in the Middle East, where Iran is laying out a steep set of demands for reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran has vowed not to reopen that critical shipping lane until America, quote, corrects its behavior. Now, this is despite a side arrangement they've been negotiating with Oman that's been reported to be nearly completed.
The U.S. has yet to respond publicly to that list of conditions. President Trump does insist negotiations are ongoing, but Democrats are arguing he has already lost the war. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us now with the latest details. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. We've all known for a while now that the Strait of Hormuz is at the heart of this conflict and of trying to resolve it. And Iran's foreign minister looked to be tempering expectations over negotiations with Oman about management of the strait, which runs between the two countries, saying that any progress made in those discussions does not mean the strait has been reopened. Growing uncertainty this morning over the Strait of Hormuz and its central role in ending the war with Iran. Iran's top diplomat said there are no negotiations right now with the U.S. after Tehran listed a series of demands through state media for reopening the strait to shipping traffic, including a permanent end to the war and no further threats to Iran, an end to the U.S. blockade and withdrawal of all American military, and that the U.S. lift sanctions and pay back assets to Iran. Vice President J.D. Vance said the administration is applying pressure.
We're in the middle of the game, and we're applying a whole host of tools, diplomatic, economic, military tools.
President Trump, who has repeatedly insisted the war is nearly over, told Axios in a new phone interview his administration is, quote, low-keying it with Iran and only semi-negotiating, while emphasizing economic pressure on Iran. Democrats slamming the president's approach.
Donald Trump has lost this war. America is weaker. Iran is stronger. The price to reopen the strait increases by the day.
The administration rejects that, with the vice president saying there's been some progress in recent days.
We're trying to maximize the amount of oil and gas that are coming out of the Strait of Hormuz.
All as the broader push for peace in the region hit a serious snag, with Israel rejecting President Trump's peace plan for Gaza that includes Israeli troops withdrawing while Hamas disarms. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, though, told his cabinet Israeli forces are not leaving until after Hamas completely disarms, a red line for Hamas. Netanyahu also reasserted that as long as he is prime minister, there will be no Palestinian state, while Hamas has said that until one is established, it won't lay down its heavy weapons, all of it threatening to reignite tensions with President Trump, who considers the Gaza deal a key achievement. Joe and Savannah.
Alice, let's get back to Iran. What more do we know about the status of Iran's talks with Oman over trying to reopen the strait?
Yeah, we've been hearing for days now that things are moving along and that there's reason to be optimistic that this could lead to the strait reopening. Oman said the negotiations with Iran were proceeding in a positive and constructive atmosphere over how to manage traffic through this shipping route that we know has this outsized role in the price we're paying for gas and for so many other things. Those discussions include potentially considering a toll fee, something President Trump has vocally opposed. And Iran, again, is making clear that an agreement with Oman does not mean that the strait is going to be reopened. But officials in Tehran are saying that reaching some kind of deal over management of the strait with Oman could lay critical groundwork for if and when Iran and the U.S. can finally come to agreement to then lead to that channel reopening.
All right, Alice Barr in Washington. Alice, thank you.
Well, the Trump administration is starting the week with a new cabinet member in its ranks.
Over the weekend, the Senate confirmed Todd Blanche to take on the role of Attorney General permanently. President Trump's former personal attorney was confirmed by a slim vote, 50-49, with 2 Republican senators joining all Democrats in voting against Blanche.
NBC News politics reporter Megan Brand joins us with this and other news out of D.C. this morning. Megan, good morning. So now that Blanche is officially on the job, what's the first things here on his to-do list? What could it tell us sort of about what kind of attorney general he'll be?
Hey guys, good morning. So even though Blanche was just confirmed over the weekend, because he had several months as acting attorney general, we have some details about what he could potentially, what to look for in terms of what kind of attorney general he will be moving forward. So one of the most controversial parts of his time as acting attorney general was when he signed off on that so-called anti-weaponization fund that had nearly tanked his nomination even before it made it out of committee, when Senators John Cornyn of Texas and Tom Tillis of North Carolina had said that they would not support him until that was officially canceled. And so then ultimately Blanche had issued an order that had rescinded the previous order that had established that so-called anti-weaponization fund. So something to watch for is, will the DOJ, will the Trump White House try to revive that fund in any kind of way moving forward now that Blanche is confirmed? Now, another thing to watch for to give us a sense as to what kind of Attorney General Todd Blanche is going to be is who the Department of Justice tries to bring cases against. This was also a pretty big part of that nomination process that lawmakers had raised some concerns about, particularly Democrats who had raised concerns about the Department of Justice trying to prosecute President Trump's political enemies. So, for example, one of the people that the Justice Department had brought a case against while Todd Blanche was serving as acting Attorney General was former FBI Director James Comey. He had brought that case. The Department of Justice had argued that Comey had effectively threatened President Trump's life by posting a picture of seashells spelling out 8647. That's something that Comey has denied, and his lawyers have moved to dismiss the case. But looking ahead, one of the big questions is who will President Trump's Department of Justice try to prosecute next, Joe and Savannah?
Megan, before leaving for recess, the Senate did pass a short-term funding bill to prevent a shutdown before the midterm elections, as we like to say, kicking the can down the road. What's in this, and is it likely going to pass the House?
So this passed overwhelmingly in the Senate. It was a vote of 90-6, which is pretty rare nowadays. This is a continuing resolution, so it funds the government at mostly the same levels through December 11th. There are a couple of new provisions in this, though. One is something that Democrats had wanted in there that they're saying would prevent the Trump administration from blocking grants to states for political reasons. So looking ahead now, this has to go to the House. Now, both the House and the Senate are now on August recess. They are back in their states. Many of them are campaigning right now ahead of the midterm elections this fall. And so when they get back in September, then the House is going to have to take this up. So it's likely going to go into at least part of September. Now, the date that we're looking at here is the end of September. That is when funding ultimately runs out, meaning that if lawmakers can't get this over the finish line by then we would ultimately enter a government shutdown in October. So if the House passes it, President Trump then has to pass it. So there are a couple of steps that have to happen before this ultimately becomes law. But if it does, then lawmakers would be able to avert a government shutdown ahead of the midterm elections, which is something that is on their minds, especially for the lawmakers who are in some of these pretty tough re-election campaigns, who are concerned about what it would look like if they are in office during another government shutdown, guys.
Megan, the president's other big priority was passing the SAVE Act. It furthered requirements for voter ID. This is really sort of taking aim at mail-in voting. In the end, the Senate didn't act on it. What happened?
Yeah, so this is a huge priority for President Trump, and it's something that he had actually urged Senate Majority Leader John Thune to keep the Senate in session until the Senate was able to pass the Save America Act, which would reshape how elections run in the U.S. Now, ultimately, as we saw, as the Senate's on recess now, that did not happen. Now, there really just does not seem to be enough support in the Senate for this. It would have to pass that 60-vote filibuster threshold, meaning that some Democrats would have to cross the aisle in order to support it for it to pass, which simply is not going to happen. And so President Trump then has pushed for Senate Republicans to get rid of the filibuster. There also doesn't seem to be enough support there. There are a couple of senators, Republican senators, who say that they do not want to get rid of the the filibuster. People like Senator Tom Tillis, for example, who has painted the argument basically that the filibuster prevents this pendulum-like swing in policy each time there is a new political party in power, guys.
All right, Megan, thank you so much.
Top Democrats are lining up behind Michigan's Democratic Senate nominee Abdul Al-Sayed as the general election campaign kicks into high gear. Now even a former president is throwing his support behind the political outsider. More on that from Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker. Kristen, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. This week on Meet the Press, I spoke with Michigan Democratic Senate nominee Abdul Al-Sayed about the phone call he received from former President Obama following his primary victory. Let me ask you about some news that we are learning. Local outlets reporting that you spoke to former President Barack Obama on the phone. I know you're not going to give me every detail of the call, but what was the crux of his message to you, Dr. Al-Sayed?
Well, Kristen, you're right. I like to keep private conversations private, but it was a really warm and inspiring conversation. I got to be honest with you, I never saw myself ever able to run for public office. I literally told former President Bill Clinton that at my college graduation, in which I was the senior speaker and he was the main speaker. And I then watched the next year Barack Hussein Obama run for and win the presidency. I watched him serve with a level of class, a level of elegance that we could only pine for now. So I really enjoyed the conversation. I was grateful for his advice. It was very warm, very inviting. And I know that he knows the critical role that Michigan is going to play in holding Trump accountable, in winning back the Senate, and in building forward the future that we need.
Is he going to campaign with you, Dr. Al-Sayed?
Look, I really hope so. And it was a really good conversation about what we need to do to be able to win. And obviously, this is somebody who knows a lot about winning Michigan.
Just to be clear, do you anticipate he'll show up on the campaign trail with you? Is that one of the broad topics you all discussed?
Look, we talked a lot about what it'll take to win. Obviously, his presence here in Michigan would mean so much to the coalition that helped elect him. So I hope that we get to campaign together.
You can see my full interview with Abdul Al-Sayed at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every weekday at 4 p.m.
All right, jury selection is set to begin today for the trial of the man accused of planning the murder of rap icon Tupac Shakur. Prosecutors say that 63-year-old Dwayne Keefe D. Davis orchestrated the infamous drive-by shooting that killed Shakur 30 years ago.
Davis has spent years talking about his involvement in the case, saying he was inside the Cadillac with the gunman when shots were fired from the back seat near the Las Vegas Strip. Davis faces a single count of murder and has been jailed since 2023. He's pleaded not guilty.
NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris joins us now to break down the case. Misty, good morning. So important distinction here. Prosecutors are not saying he fired the shot. They're saying he helped orchestrate the killing. I talk about that because there are previous statements that he took credit for supplying the gun used, but there's a distinction here. How do prosecutors sort of make this argument?
So in a book that he wrote in 2019, he has a play-by-play of what happened that night. They went out, set out to find Tupac with a gun that was provided by him for retaliation for a prior altercation, went out looking for him. So under the law, somebody who's part of the planning of the crime and the commission of the crime can be held equally as responsible as the person that pulls the trigger. So that's why you see a murder charge. But interestingly enough, all that information comes from him. So the defendant is actually the prosecution's star witness.
Very interesting. But the other thing, Misty, is like he's been taking credit for the shooting since 2008. So why did it take all the way until 2023 to see this arrest?
So 2008, he entered into a proffer agreement with the federal investigators. A proffer agreement means you cannot be prosecuted for any information that is provided in that session. It's only until he started making comments about this very publicly and wrote that tell-all book where he really lays it out. And that breaks the proffer agreement because it doesn't cover statements that you make in the public sphere.
So if you're a defense attorney and you see this book right here, how do you defend that? How does that complicate things for his defense?
So what the defense has said is that he's a co-author. There was a ghostwriter, that he actually fabricated the story because he wanted to make money. So we're in another interesting and unique legal situation where the defense is arguing our client was lying. He was lying when he wrote this book. And prosecutors are saying, jury, you should believe what he said on these pages.
How strong of a case do you think the prosecution has here 30 years later?
So you have these statements that are made in the book, and the whole case is going to be about prosecutors showing that these were credible statements that the jury should believe. And what they're going to do is take other parts of the book and say, well, these parts are objectively true, and the defense will say the opposite. There's things that are demonstrably false. But what don't they have? They don't have the murder weapon. They don't have the getaway car. There's no surveillance photo. The other three individuals who are allegedly in that car are now deceased. So it's really going to rise and fall on whether or not the jury believes what was written in this book and statements that Davis made in the media.
Should be fascinating to see it all unfold. All right, Misty Maris, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Well, out west, crews are finally starting to get control over the destructive wildfires burning across multiple states. Officials in Washington state say hundreds of firefighters working around the clock made exceptional progress in containing the fires burning near Spokane over the weekend. Well, meanwhile, across the eastern part of the country, another round of record-setting high temperatures are forcing people to beat the heat however they can.
In Chicago, a line of intense storms brought torrential rain overnight. Meteorologists say over 1.5 inches of rain fell in less than an hour. That caused flooding in some areas.
That is where NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster joins us around with the very latest here. Shaq, good morning. We can see some of that damage behind you. Just tell us about these storms.
Yeah, some people very upset this morning because their trees or their cars are now under trees. And you can see some of the damage. We saw that wind and that rain in the Chicago area. You see that branch crashing down onto this car, just one of several. The branch completely blocking this road here, blocking and messing up the morning commute. Now, we saw in the overnight hours that wind and rain in the Chicago area. But if you look in Illinois, you saw actually reports of tornadoes about 2 hours away from where I'm standing now. We saw some tornado damage there. We'll wait for the National Weather Service to come out and actually inspect that to confirm it was a tornado, but that just gives you an idea of the range of weather that we've been seeing here in the Midwest. And the problem is we have more of it to come. The National Weather Service saying that you can expect another round of storms later this afternoon, especially as we go into the evening hours, which means it's not just the morning commute that's been impacting these folks, but they could be looking for a messy evening as well, guys.
Shaq, very different issue out west where the fires are still burning. We did say crews are making progress. How close are they to fully containing them or at least getting them better under control?
Progress, but there's still a ways to go. You only have one of those fires that's above 60% containment right now. You still are talking about massive evacuations, especially in the Spokane area. I believe it's a level 2 or level 3 evacuation order in Washington state. And then Reno, you're also dealing with evacuations and these wildfires that continue to burn. We also know that they have turned deadly in the Utah area. We saw 2 firefighters being honored. They were fighting the fire via helicopter, and unfortunately they did not survive that fight with the fire. So this is that firefight. So this is something that's continuing, but there's still a ways to go in terms of getting the containment to the levels that are going to be satisfactory to folks there.
And Shaq, how about the heat wave? How much longer is that going to last?
Oh, yes, that heat is going to continue. You have heat on both coasts right now. You know, in New York, we have some great video of the water balloon fight that some folks in Central Park were doing and having to kind of, get that break away from the heat. You can expect the heat to last a couple more days, especially out west where you have those heat warnings in effect at least through Wednesday. Again, heat can be a serious thing for folks. It can be deadly. That's why you have folks and experts reminding you, take those breaks, go inside, avoid the heat as much as you can. Don't stay outside too long because the effects can definitely sneak up on you. Guys.
All right, Shaq, stay cool, stay safe. Thanks so much.
We need a lot of water balloons there. For more on what to expect, let's bring in meteorologist Angie Lassman.
She's tracking the latest conditions as we get our work week started. Hey, Angie, good morning. Hey there, we've got another day of hot temperatures on tap for us, and you can see these heat alerts up for a whole lot of folks. Upwards of 49 million people included in those across the southern plains, parts of the southwest. This is going to be something that Oklahoma City, St. Louis, Memphis sees through at least the day today, with a couple of records, a handful of them possible across sections of the southern Rockies and plains today. Here's a big picture look at those temperatures, though, this afternoon. 106 degrees is what it'll feel like in Wichita. We've got 105 for the feels like temperature in St. Louis. Farther to the south, New Orleans, Corpus Christi, you will feel like 105. And the East Coast in on this as well. 100 degrees for that heat index value by afternoon in Charlotte. 96 is what it'll feel like in New York City later this afternoon. No relief as we get into tomorrow. Still triple digits for actual temperatures and heat index values across a lot of regions. We've got 105 for what it feels like in Nashville. Baton Rouge tops out at 94, but will feel like 105 as well. And we stay steamy all the way really through the end of our work week in some of these spots. Oklahoma City, you are above 100 until at least Friday. We've got high 90s to high 80s in St. Louis through Wednesday and Thursday. 98 degrees on Wednesday in Charleston, and feeling even warmer than that in a lot of these spots. 107 for Charleston by Wednesday, for what it'll feel like in Mobile. 107 as well on Wednesday. On top of that, some strong storms possible. We've got a severe threat stretching for 43 million people from parts of Illinois all the way to Pennsylvania, and then a chunk of the plains. We're mainly looking at hail and damaging wind gusts, but we can't rule out a couple of tornadoes as well. Tomorrow, an even larger threat, 26 million people. The wind gusts up to 75 miles per hour will be possible. Where you see this lighter shaded yellow is where we're most concerned. Indianapolis, Columbus, Charleston, Lynchburg, all included in that. And again, mainly wind and hail going to be the biggest threat, but tornado can't rule that out either. We've got plenty of rain on tap as well, upwards of 3 to 4, even maybe 5 inches in some spots. And we're still dealing with air quality issues across parts of the Pacific Northwest. We'll see that be an issue with those wildfire smokes ongoing as we get through at least the next couple of days. Back to you.
All right, Angie, thank you. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, recall expanded. The company, the center of that massive parasite outbreak, now pulling more products off the shelves. What you need to know.
Up first, though, after the break, developing news from overnight. Ukraine launching deadly drone strikes on a key Russian city. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. There is now an updated timeline for when ICE officers will get body cameras. Comes more than a year into President Trump's immigration crackdown.
Over the weekend, the agency announced all officers will be equipped with body cameras by the end of August. That's actually sooner than previously expected.
NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley reported on the change over the weekend. Joins us with more on her reporting. Julia, good morning. So agents were expected to get them mid-September, so this is going to be a little bit sooner. What accelerated the timeline?
Yeah, so just a few weeks before they were expected to get them. But honestly, a lot of times in government or even in big corporations, things take longer. And so ICE is letting everyone know that they do expect all 25 field offices around the country to have body cameras available, not just for officers who are making arrests, but also for agents who are doing deep investigations with Homeland Security investigations by the end of the month. And they're putting this out at the same time that there was some reporting they wanted to correct by the Associated Press about how those cameras would be used. They want to tell everyone they're committed to this transparency and committed to this promise. Remember, this is the promise they made after the deadly Houston shooting of Lorenzo Arenejo earlier this summer. And then that, of course, was followed by a second shooting in Maine just 6 days later. So there was a lot of emphasis put on what ICE officers are seeing when they decide to fire deadly shots. Of course, it follows the 2 fatal shootings of U.S. citizens in Minneapolis earlier this year, one by DHS, one by Customs and Border Protection. And all along, there's been increased calls for transparency and for ICE so that the public knows exactly why these people are firing their shots, especially when it has to do with individuals in vehicles who appear to be driving away rather than toward the officers in many of these cases.
So, Julia, what do we know about the rules here? Like, has ICE explicitly said that they'll be required to have them on and recording during any arrest or anything like that?
So a lot of questions still about whether or not they have to have them on all the time, but they are expected to have enough to give to every officer, which would insinuate some kind of mandate. There was a mandate actually under the Biden administration, and a pilot program got these cameras out to about 25% of their workforce, and they were supposed to have them required for all officers, but Trump ended that for all federal agents when he came into office. So now this is especially geared toward ICE, and each agency is able to make their own rules. So far, what we know about ICE is that they will be releasing footage, but not if they think that it might hinder privacy or hinder an investigation. So that's leading to a lot of questions from the public about how ICE will determine when and if they do release footage.
And that begs my next question. It's one thing for these agents to be wearing these cameras during arrests, but how will we find out if the public gets to see the video? If so, how quickly? Say after incidents like the shooting of Alex Preddy, one of those who was shot in Minneapolis.
But one thing we know as reporters is that we can put in a Freedom of Information Act request to try to get the cameras, to get the footage as soon as it's released. Whether or not they'll have an official place where, like a landing page where they release all of this footage, remains to be seen. And so there are a lot of questions for ICE today about whether or not they will pick and choose what they release. As you know, the investigations into what happened in Minneapolis in January are still ongoing. And so is there a question of whether or not something like that would have the footage released? What we've seen in so many of these cases is cell phone videos and doorbell cameras are being released. Sometimes, like the man in Houston, after the fact, after the shooting has already happened. So the public is left with very little detail, and people often are putting together the version of events that they want, that really support their view of ICE and what they're doing in these communities. And so these cameras a lot of times can be essential. We've even heard from Tom Homan and Secretary of Homeland Security Mark Wayne Mullen saying they want more transparency and they want these cameras. But I think the job of journalists and the job of the public going forward will be to figure out when we're not getting the footage and ask the question why and make sure they're using a consistent policy.
We know you'll stay on it. Julia Ainsley, as always, thank you so much.
Well, we are following developing news this morning. Ukraine has launched a new wave of deadly drone strikes on a key Russian city.
NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer joins us now to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Janice, good morning.
Good morning. Russia and Ukraine exchanged missile and drone strikes overnight that killed 7 civilians and injured dozens on both sides. The latest attacks hitting the Russian border region of Belgorod and the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. Kyiv has also kept up longer-range drone strikes on Russian facilities, including those owned by Wildberries, that's Russia's version of Amazon, as well as energy infrastructure that is sparking a fuel crisis there. Here in London, another heat wave is about to hit this week as temperatures across Europe continue to hit uncomfortable records. The extreme heat, which started back in May, has caused drought, wildfires, as well as heat-related deaths. Scientists say with global warming and a supersized El Nino, that's the periodic warming of parts of the Pacific that's also affecting temperatures, that 2026 could be on track to be the hottest year on record ever, beating out 2024. And finally, here's one way to beat the heat in Paris. The city is staging its first high diving competition in the Seine. They've built a 65-foot platform in front of the Eiffel Tower where athletes can launch themselves into the water below. It's meant to showcase the revival of the famous river for sport. It's been part of a massive $1.6 billion investment to clean it up after years of pollution and sewage and generally unsafe levels of a lot of different things. The return of swimming competitions as well in the river has drawn hundreds of curious onlookers, many of them opting to jump in too. And that's your look at where we stand or swim in the world today.
There you go.
Yeah.
Or you could just watch on the sidelines, too. That's always nice.
Always an option.
There you go. Janice, thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Coming up, a potentially deadly fungus spreading across the U.S.
So far, thousands of cases have been reported across nearly 30 states. Our Dr. Azar is here with what you need to know to stay healthy. It's coming up next on Morning News Now. Welcome back. Produce supplier Taylor Farms is now recalling all prepared food items that contain jalapeños. This is over concerns of potential salmonella contamination. In a statement, the company said it was no longer sourcing from a farm in Mexico that has been identified as a potential source of the outbreak. Taylor Farms said it voluntarily recalled products including guacamole and salsas after Coast Citrus Distributors said it was recalling the jalapeno peppers. The items were sold across 26 states at retailers like Walmart, Target, and Trader Joe's. This comes just weeks after the California-based supplier's lettuce was linked to the cyclospora outbreak that has sickened more than 10,000 people in the U.S.
Well, now let's get to this growing concern around a deadly fungus that poses a severe threat to hospitals and nursing homes across the U.S. It's called Candida auris. Some infectious disease experts call it a superbug, though. It's a yeast that lives on the skin and spreads easily via contact. The CDC has reported thousands of cases in at least 27 states so far this year.
Infections can range from mild skin irritation to life-threatening conditions like sepsis. It can be especially dangerous for people with weakened immune systems.
NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar is here to tell us what we need to know about this fungus. Dr. Azar, good morning. Okay, so not the greatest topic this morning, but let's talk through how this spreads, where it is sort of on your skin.
Okay, so Candida auris is a type of fungus that can cause both invasive infections, which can lead to life-threatening sepsis, Joe, as you explained, or it can just be colonized on our skin, which means that it is living on our skin, but it's not causing infection. It is most commonly seen. It is a concern for people who are already ill, people who are immunocompromised, especially in a hospital setting, for example, nursing home, or in a hospital where you might have a central line or indwelling catheter, because it can live on surfaces for many, many weeks. So that's why if you're sharing a room, for example, with someone who's infected, that could be an issue, and it can also be spread from person to person that way.
What are some of the most common symptoms to look out for, and then who are the people who are most at risk for seeing this?
Yeah, so here's the thing. It is unlike when we talked about salmonella or we talked about cyclospora, which is a universal sort of experience. Right. This is not like that. So you may have everything from a potential skin or a wound infection to a life-threatening sepsis. So that could present as a low body temperature, low blood pressure, a high heart rate, for example, and then leading all the way up to sepsis, which of course is life-threatening, where you have a multi-organ kind of situation. The people who, again, are most at risk are not even healthcare workers so much, but it really is people who are already in the hospital, especially people who maybe, frequently are in the hospital for lengthy periods of time. Those are the folks that we worry the most about.
And it's tough to treat, right?
Right. So here's the problem. So most strains of Candida auris are resistant to at least one antifungal. The majority of them will still be susceptible to a class of antifungals that we have, but there are some that are what we refer to as pan-resistant. And that's what worries healthcare workers, right? Because if you have someone who might be infected with a strain that is truly not susceptible to any antifungals that are available, then you're really in a bind. Then doctors are starting to do combinations of existing on the market antifungal treatment, as well as using investigational medications. But I do want to leave our viewers, because it's scary. It sounds superbug and everything. For the majority of us in the outpatient setting, this is not something that's ever going to pose a threat. But all of us at one point or another may end up in a hospital, have loved ones in a hospital. It's something that certainly you should be aware of as a person, but it's something that healthcare providers, especially in the inpatient hospital setting, take very, very seriously in terms of trying to detect and isolate and sanitize and all of those measures that we do in the hospital setting.
So the good news is it's pretty rare, but if you do happen to get sick, and I think you touched on this, what are the options for treatment?
Yeah, so there are. So there is a class of antifungals that is sort of considered first line for adults and babies 2 years and up. That is very, very, very effective. It's the concern that there are certainly a very small percentage of these infections that it's truly pan-resistant. So that's the thing that scares you. The CDC will specifically say that if someone in the hospital passes away and is infected with Candida auris. It's not always clear if it's the Candida infection or if their underlying illness is the situation, but certainly anyone who's ever seen someone in the hospital, you don't want to get infected with this on top of multiple other medical problems, in the hospital setting.
Why is it that we would be sort of seeing more of an outbreak right now, and then how do you stop that?
Yeah, so what's interesting about it, Savannah, is actually we have seen more cases this year than at the same time last year.
Okay.
However, the CDC also say that the rates of infection are actually coming down. So I know there's a little bit of discordance there. Some of it is actually better detection. So hospitals are able now better to distinguish between colonization and true infection. What was the second part of your question?
And just how do we stop that right now?
This is all about infection control. It's about identifying and diagnosing people if they can. It's a quick swab, a skin swab to see if you're colonized. And if you have a patient who's colonized, you need to really disinfect their room and potentially keep them away from other patients who could become sicker. So this is one of those like CDC, we have an issue here. This is a potentially pan-resistant fungus. And if that's the case, we don't want to get infected with that. How do we go about preventing? This is not something you and I can prevent at home. This is really in a hospital or nursing home setting where the infection control people are really like on the job.
Absolutely. All right, Dr. Azar, great to have you. Thank you so much.
Coming up on Morning News Now, AI detection technology causing some controversy in the classroom.
I was kind of offended that they would accuse me without any proof whatsoever, and they just assumed something about me that wasn't true.
We come back, we're going to introduce you to one student pushing for change after she says she was falsely accused of using AI on an assignment.
Plus, a new documentary shining a spotlight on a difficult reality for many women in Iran. The film's director joins us next. Stay with us. We are back with a growing concern for high school students across the U.S. So as more districts crack down on AI use in the classroom and for homework, some students say they are being wrongly accused of using the tech to cheat. NBC News Now anchor Gotti Schwartz has more.
I knew him, Horatio. In any given generation, there are bound to be those who get big fat zeros on Shakespearean essays. But the kind of zero Eleanor Kanina found was a modern-day sling and arrow of outrageous fortune.
They thought I used AI.
Kanina's teacher had used detection software that is intended to sniff out AI writing, but she says it was a false positive.
I was kind of offended that they would accuse me without any proof whatsoever, and they just assumed something about me that wasn't true.
She eventually cleared her name after another teacher did a deep dive into the document history.
He saw the progress that I had for my work, and then afterwards he approached me and apologized for the whole situation.
A somewhat happy ending for Eleanor's star-crossed essay, but a growing problem for students across America. How accurate are AI detection tools?
We have a 1 in 10,000 false positive rate.
Max Sparrow is the CEO of Pangram. How can you be so sure?
Oh, we've run this on millions and millions of documents that are known to be human, and so we just measure it.
Do you have the counterweights of millions and millions of documents that are definitely AI?
Yep, we generate those ourselves. That's how we train the model actually, and that's how it learns so well. Is we just need to see tons and tons of training examples.
Here at NBC, we decided to do some tests ourselves using various AI detection tools.
Now, there are certain characteristics that usually pop up from time to time in AI. Certain things AI does over and over again. We're going to try to see if we can simulate some of that. If we think we're writing like AI, whether it'll know if we're human or one of them. Oh, we tricked them. Okay, here we go. Your text is human written, but 15.3% written by AI.
When asked about our little test, a Pangram spokesperson said, in the same way one can imitate a famous author well enough to fool an expert, it's possible to intentionally imitate LLM styles such that it fools Pangram, especially with short samples.
I was recently accused of using AI on an assignment.
Kanina has taken all of this as a call to action. She's launching a petition to make sure her classmates in North Carolina don't suffer a similar fate. In a statement to NBC News, a spokesperson for the Wake County Public School System says, we are actively evaluating adopting policy and guidance related to artificial intelligence. We are listening to feedback from students, families, and staff.
What are you hoping happens with your petition here?
I just hope that like the school district puts in some policies that actually protects students from all this. And they talked to me a bit afterwards, and it does seem like they're planning on doing it, but I just hope that they actually do.
Gotti Schwartz, NBC News.
A new documentary film out this Friday provides an intimate and often unsettling picture of what life is like for women caught in Iran's judicial system. It's called Eye for an Eye. It's about a woman who spent 14 years in prison for killing her abusive husband. When she's released, she's ordered to either pay his family financial compensation or be put to death. Director Tanaz Ashagian joins me now with more on the film. Congratulations on this. I know it has been many, many years of work for you. Walk us through the documentary story and this idea of a payment that some call blood money, how this works in Iran's legal system.
So it's actually written in the Quran. So it's Sharia law, and Sharia law is the law of Iran now. And what you're allowed to do is, when it is a murder, but it's like a private situation, for instance, in this case, it's within a family. If you can forgive, and for forgiveness, you're allowed to demand blood money.
Wow.
And it's, in a way, it's a loophole for a lot of people to stay alive, because if the angry family will allow you to pay them blood money instead of executing you, it's a way to not be executed.
You had to collaborate with an Iranian filmmaker to actually shoot inside the country because there are so many restrictions. Talk about how that works and the challenges that come with shooting a documentary in Iran.
So I worked with a team on the ground, and this was a first for me to not be there myself. But I noticed during the pandemic, a lot of filmmakers were doing that. And I was like, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm at a place in my filmmaking ability where I can direct from here and potentially make it happen. And it worked. And the team on the ground lives in Iran, knows where the red lines are instinctively. And so they were great at getting access, knowing where they can go, where they can't go. And what we would do is, when the footage was shot, they would send it right over. And that's how we operated.
This is an eye-opening story, I think, for so many people. Why was it so important for you to tell this story?
Well, in my filmmaking career, I've always been interested at looking at people who are at the margins. And in some way, they're banging up against what the norms are. They've transgressed the norms. They don't fit in. They don't belong. Because I think that's the way you can really understand a society, is by the people who don't fit in whatever way. Like, I did a film about men in Iran who have sex change operations a while ago. And there you have folks who really are shunned. They don't fit in. And in this case, because of what had happened, she has become persona non grata. And I think it's a great way to understand patriarchy at its margins, really, because here's a woman who, if things had gone well, would have been taken care of by her husband, would have had her father taking care of her, to be really actually quite pleasant. But it didn't work out. And when it doesn't work out, you get to really explore the system that failed her.
Of course, we have to mention the U.S. and Iran at war right now. All of this was shot before that war started 5 months ago.
Yeah.
What are you hearing about how things have changed for women inside the country? Are you concerned things are getting even worse in the last few months? What is it you're hearing?
I wouldn't say that they're necessarily getting worse or they're getting better. I think the focus right now is on survival and less on women's rights in the way that they were before the war. So I think the focus has really shifted.
For people in America who see this story, what do you hope they take away from it?
Well, I actually think, I was discussing this with a friend the other day. If you watch this film, you will appreciate the ability of Iranians to negotiate.
Okay, which feels timely right now.
Exactly. I mean, the negotiation skills in this film and the access we had to watching how they're negotiating over a woman's life for blood money is astounding. Yeah. And I keep seeing the headlines, and I'm like, this feels so similar, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like the negotiating is really something worth watching.
Tanaz Ashagian, thank you so much. Congratulations on the film. We appreciate you joining us. Eye for an Eye out in theaters this Friday.
Coming up on Morning News Now, a very important experiment that's got a lot of folks talking trash.
Very few things are actually bear proof. If a bear spends enough time, it's probably mostly going to get into anything given their power and their determination.
When we return, more on the unique school project that's putting some of Alaska's most beloved residents to the test. Bear with us. We'll be right back. Finally, this hour, one of the bare necessities of life in Alaska is making sure that uninvited guests don't get into the trash.
So high schoolers there are working on the ultimate bear-resistant dumpster, as Joe Allgood from our affiliate in Anchorage shows us. Their design was put through the ultimate trial with some very persistent testers.
Most people don't want critters anywhere near their dumpster. Not today.
The dumpsters that are being tested at AWCC today are designed by high school students in Kodiak, Alaska. We're testing their ability to be bear resistant.
For the last 3 years, this dumpster designed by Kodiak High School welding students has been put through the ringer.
We brought it back this year to try to get a little bit more handling time, see if the bears can't get into it. And so far, so good.
Filled with a tantalizing mixture of jelly, whipped cream, peanut butter, and fish.
It's a dessert and dinner combo.
The hungry habitants will stop at nothing to get inside.
The first year that we did this test, the students had designed a locking mechanism, and JB broke into it in, I want to say, about 1 minute and 26 seconds.
And while entertaining,
we're going to explain a little bit about why we do this testing.
it's also educating.
So we focus a lot on ways to mitigate negative human-bear interactions, and using this as a demonstration for how easy it can be for bears to get into structures that are hard for one of us to move.
A one-of-a-kind school project.
As an educator, I think that the most interesting part of this whole process is that it's driven by students.
Talking to their welding instructor, this is by far their best project, their favorite project. You know, they get something that is, they can see real results from. It's a contribution to their community.
Because one man's trash is another bear's treasure.
We usually refer to it as bear resistant because, as you can appreciate, very few things are actually bear proof. If a bear spends enough time, it's probably mostly going to get into anything given their power and their determination.
And then the next day, the bear was their substitute teacher, which just added a whole new wrinkle to the whole thing. Thanks to Joe Allgood for bringing us that story out of Alaska. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thank you for kicking off your work week with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, more weather woes doled out by an unrelenting Mother Nature impacting tens of millions across America. A storm-shocked Midwest now bracing for yet another deluge of heavy rain that could cause some potentially life-threatening flash flooding. Well, the scorching East Coast expected to sweat through more sky-high temps today. Angie is here to start your week off right with what you can expect when you head out the door. Also this morning, a high-stakes string of setbacks for President Trump popping up abroad and here at home. In the Middle East, some potentially costly pushback from Iran. Officials in Tehran now saying the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until the U.S. corrects its behavior. In Washington, another legal blow to the commander-in-chief's controversial ballroom blueprint. The latest in a moment. And later in the hour, we're ushering in an exciting new era for Team USA's elite Olympic gymnasts. The budding superstars looking to make yet another golden run in LA come 20 28. It is never too early to start talking about the Summer Olympics.
It definitely. I couldn't agree more.
All right, let's start this hour with another round of severe weather that is moving across the country. Nearly 50 million Americans from New York City down to Miami are waking up under heat alerts as temperatures are set to be well above normal today.
Meanwhile, out west, crews are battling multiple fires across several states, and scorching temperatures there could slow down their progress. Then in the Midwest, powerful storms in Illinois dropped nearly 2 inches, look at this, of rain in an hour, causing flooding near Chicago. That is where NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is. He joins us with the latest. Shaq, good morning.
A wicked round of storms here in the Chicago area overnight. That wind and rain causing some of this damage that you see behind me. You see the branch of this tree falling over, crashing onto not just this car here, but several of the cars in this road. This branch blocking the road during the morning commute here. This is just one of the areas that are forced to clean up as we head into the day.
Overnight, reported tornadoes touching down across Illinois.
I can see debris.
The destruction clear in the town of Ransom, a train even blown off the tracks. The storms throughout the state bringing lightning and torrential rain, falling at over 1.5 inches per hour in Chicago, causing flooding in some areas. Water pouring off roofs and spilling into the streets. The storms knocking out power to thousands in the Windy City, and even forcing a delay at the Chicago White Sox game. Rain hitting parts of the Northeast too. In western Massachusetts, sudden storms displacing some residents over the weekend after this roof partially collapsed. The wild weather also stalling travel on Sunday with temporary ground stops and delays, as extreme heat also persists nationwide. Almost 50 million people currently under heat alerts, with heat indexes in the plains reaching as high as 110 degrees. Residents in New York City taking part in a massive water balloon fight in Central Park to stay cool. While across the country, nearly 100 large wildfires are burning, including dozens from Washington to Nevada. Just north of Reno, evacuation orders are in place as crews battle a wildfire there. While in Utah, another blaze that has already consumed more than 100,000 acres, leading to this powerful sight. First responders paying tribute to 2 fallen firefighters who died in a helicopter crash while battling that fire.
Now, I talked about the morning commute here. The National Weather Service saying that there is another round of thunderstorms, another potential for severe weather as we get into the afternoon and into the evening. More thunderstorms, more damaging wind, even the possibility of hail that could certainly impact the evening commute here in Chicago. Guys?
All right, Shaq, thank you.
Let's find out what else is in store for your work week.
Let's check in with meteorologist Angie Lastman. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hey there, we've got another day of hot temperatures on tap for us, and you can see these heat alerts up for a whole lot of folks. Upwards of 49 million people included in those across the southern plains, parts of the southwest. This is going to be something that Oklahoma City, St. Louis, Memphis sees through at least the day today, with a couple of records, a handful of them possible across sections of the southern Rockies and plains today. Here's a big picture look at those temperatures, though, this afternoon. 106 degrees is what it'll feel like in Wichita. We've got 105 for the feels like temperature in St. Louis. Farther to the south, New Orleans, Corpus Christi, you will feel like 105. And the East Coast in on this as well. 100 degrees for that heat index value by afternoon in Charlotte. 96 is what it'll feel like in New York City later this afternoon. No relief as we get into tomorrow. Still triple digits for actual temperatures and heat index values across a lot of regions. We've got 105 for what it feels like in Nashville. Baton Rouge tops out at 94, but will feel like 105 as well. And we stay steamy all the way really through the end of our work week in some of these spots. Oklahoma City, you are above 100 until at least Friday. We've got high 90s to high 80s in St. Louis through Wednesday and Thursday. 98 degrees on Wednesday in Charleston, and feeling even warmer than that in a lot of these spots. 107 for Charleston, rather, by Wednesday, for what it'll feel like in Mobile. 107 as well on Wednesday. On top of that, some strong storms possible. We've got a severe threat stretching for 43 million people from parts of Illinois all the way to Pennsylvania, and then a chunk of the plains. We're mainly looking at hail and again, damaging wind gusts, but we can't rule out a couple of tornadoes as well. Tomorrow, an even larger threat, 26 million people. The wind gusts up to 75 miles per hour will be possible. Where you see this lighter shaded yellow is where we're most concerned. Indianapolis, Columbus, Charleston, Lynchburg, all included in that. And again, mainly wind and hail going to be the biggest threat, but tornado can't rule that out either. We've got plenty of rain on tap as well, upwards of 3 to 4, even maybe 5 inches in some spots. And we're still dealing with air quality issues across parts of the Pacific Northwest. We'll see that be an issue with those wildfire smokes ongoing as we get through at least the next couple of days. Back to you.
All right, Angie, thank you so much. Well, now to the Middle East, where Iran has laid out steep demands to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, saying they won't do so until the U.S., quote, corrects its behavior, diminishing hopes that a deal to end the war being negotiated with Oman could be nearly complete. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons is in Doha with the latest. Keir, good morning.
Hey there, good morning to you. Millions of Americans remain focused on this stretch of water thousands of miles away because of the impact that it can have on gas prices and inflation back home. Iran trying to double down on that leverage to put President Trump in a corner. Days after President Trump said the Strait of Hormuz could soon be open, Iran issuing new demands, including what amounts to billions of dollars. While President Trump told Axios, quote, "We are low-keying it," adding, "We are only semi-negotiating with them. We are just watching Iran with its huge inflation." The U.S. announcing more Iran sanctions.
We're just going to keep on applying the pressure that we can apply.
As questions loom over negotiations, Iran releasing rare images of its supreme leader without saying when it was filmed. He was injured during strikes in February. While Iran's foreign minister demanding the U.S. must address violations of the latest U.S.-Iran agreement, including lifting sanctions, the U.S. ending its blockade of Hormuz and agreeing not to target or insult Iran in the future, and insisting America must pay damages for the wars this year and in 2025, and that it must withdraw its forces from around the Gulf. Speaking from Tehran, one expert on Iran's plans telling NBC News,
trying to push Americans out of the region is clearly one of their objectives, strategic objectives, before the war, during the war, and after the war.
Iran also demanding the end of, quote, aggression against its proxies, groups that have attacked Israel. Israel's prime minister rejecting that concession, insisting Israel is crushing Iran's axis of evil and terror. His spokesman telling NBC's Matt Bradley this morning, Iran must not get a nuclear weapon.
If they have that capability, if we see them moving towards that capability, the prime minister has been very clear in saying Israel will act to stop that.
And Savannah, in another blow for the Trump administration, Israel rejecting President Trump's Board of Peace plan. The U.S. and Israel went into the Iran war together. Now there is real strain on that relationship. Savannah?
All right, Keir, thank you.
President Trump's plan for a White House ballroom is hitting yet another legal roadblock. Construction on the president's signature project now on hold after a federal appeals court ruled Congress should have approved the project. The president now wants the Supreme Court to step in. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez is at the White House. Gabe, what's the latest?
Joe, good morning. The $400 million ballroom project is up in the air after that appeals court ruled President Trump was a temporary tenant, not the owner of the White House. But he's firing back that he's not a tenant, he's the president. And now he wants the case to go before the Supreme Court.
This morning, President Trump's White House ballroom project is in jeopardy after a federal appeals court ruled Congress should have approved the construction process. The court ordered above-ground construction halted, but paused its ruling so the Trump administration can appeal to the Supreme Court. The president calling the ruling an unjust decision that must be overturned by the Supreme Court in its entirety. The president also referring to the ballroom as a desperately needed military center because of national security enhancements being built below ground.
And we're building a great ballroom and a military facility as part of it, and it's incredible.
While most Republicans say they support the project,
I think he sees the need for having a large venue and a safe place to have more people for important meetings.
Some expressing concerns.
He's living in a house that is not his house. It belongs to to the country.
The ballroom, part of multiple changes the president is making in Washington. Overnight, the National Park Service announcing it will restrict the public's access to parts of the National Mall for another month as work continues on the reflecting pool. The president also weighing in on that project, posting photos of what he calls vandalism to the pool, and writing U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro should revisit her hastily made decision to drop criminal charges against people accused of damaging the landmark.
She folded like an umbrella.
In a court filing, Pirro's office said flawed installation, not vandalism, caused the pool liner to peel. The president saying, quote, there was also some contractor error done by rushing the job, but it was a very small area, and pledging that it will reopen shortly.
The reflecting pool remains fenced off while repairs are underway. The new target date for reopening is September 10th. Joe.
All right, Gabe, thank you.
Well, let's turn now to a difficult health update for former President Biden. In an interview with the BBC, his son, Hunter Biden, is revealing that his father's cancer has spread, and he called it very debilitating. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us from Washington with the details we have here. Ryan, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning. In the months after leaving office, Joe Biden revealed that he had a diagnosis of an aggressive form of prostate cancer. Former First Lady Jill Biden later saying that the cancer had spread to his bones. Now it's Hunter Biden providing an update about his dad that he calls really hard and sad to watch.
Continue this conversation with NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel. Dr. Patel, good morning. So we heard there Hunter Biden describe his father's symptoms as painful, as debilitating. What kind of symptoms do we think the former president is likely experiencing?
Yeah, well, we don't have a lot of the specifics. We heard not just from what Ryan was reporting, but from his son, Hunter Biden, and Jill Biden, that this is prostate cancer that has spread to the bones. That means that it's kind of grown from its original location in the prostate, so that we understand that even with those bone spread, that you can have pain is one of the most predominant features that we commonly see. Metastatic cancer for the prostate can also have urinary symptoms itself. So I would imagine that this is also a very common feature. And then again, prostate cancer isn't just one kind of cancer. Depending on the type and the aggressiveness, which we're hearing this was an aggressive cancer, it can also have some other additional symptoms. As we know more medical details, we'll understand that. But at a minimum, Savannah, some of that pain and likely some urinary troubles.
Yeah, I want to ask you more about that because so many prostate cancers are slow growing, don't have the high risk of spreading. Explain what is different here and what are some of the range of prostate cancers we do see.
Yeah, so this is one of the most common cancers. You see on the screen here, just some important statistics. I want to remind people that it can be one of the most common cancers amongst men. 15% of global male cancers are in the form of prostate cancer. Prostate cancer itself, because of the nature of it, as I said, is not just one type of disease. It's so many different kinds depending on the stage, the tumor type, the cell type, and that can indicate the aggressiveness of it, can indicate kind of how much treatment we can apply to it and how serious it is. This in particular, while we didn't have a lot of these details when that initial diagnosis was announced from the former president, we now have these emerging details that this was aggressive, which means that at the time of diagnosis, it's highly likely that it had already spread from outside of its origin, the prostate, to other parts of the body. We know the bones have been involved, but it's also difficult without more details to know what other areas might be involved. Of course, the more that it's spread, the harder it can be to treat.
What do you think doctors are doing to determine the best course of action here?
Yeah, you heard a little bit of the hints of that, Savannah. So you heard a little bit about hormone therapies. Some of the most common therapies for prostate cancer, obviously, if it's small and it's resectable, and I want to stress this because a majority of the prostate cancers that we find, actually, if we leave them alone, don't cause any disease. I know that sounds completely counterintuitive to say something like the word cancer can cause nothing, but it has to do with those different kinds of cancers. But you can see these androgen or hormone blockers, you can see local radiation, resection of the prostate, and at times other types of surgery to help with managing even the symptoms. I think the key here is how to manage the symptoms and progression of the disease. There's often in medical school, we learned something that if we actually looked at many autopsies, we would find kind of slow indolent prostate cancers. That's not what the former president has, but I just want to give viewers and listeners a spectrum of how this can look like a lot of different diseases.
Some people out there, men out there, might hear about the former president's story. They might grow anxious about their own health. What are some of the early symptoms of prostate cancer that men should watch out for?
Yeah, so I think this is very important. And it's also just to say once more that this can also be other things, and it doesn't necessarily mean cancer. And cancer does not necessarily mean you'll follow the same path as the former president. But often we will see men with blood in the urine. If that's a signal, then you should, or semen, you should talk to your doctor. The need to get up and urinate more often. I have a lot of patients that have prostatic hypertrophy. That's an enlargement of the prostate. So that can be a symptom, but you just want to bring that attention to the doctor, waking up to urinate. I would also just stress something, a family history. We know that in men, this can go underdiagnosed when there is a family history, because that can prompt us to screen and try to detect any sort of prostate abnormality early. So if you don't know if you have a family history, that's also called to just call a relative, talk to someone and find out if there might be a history of prostate disease or cancer in your family, particularly in men of color.
All right, Dr. Kavita Patel, thank you so much. Important conversation. Much more to come on this Monday edition of Morning News Now, including the group of researchers turning a $100 consumer drone into a controversial stalking machine, all with the help of facial recognition and AI.
First, though, after the break, 30 years after the untimely murder of Tupac Shakur, the man who police say orchestrated his death, set to stand trial starting today. Got more on that next.
Developing news now to get you out of eastern China, where a powerful typhoon has prompted millions of people to evacuate their homes.
NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer joins us now to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Janice, good morning.
Good morning. Authorities in China have evacuated more than 1 million people from their homes in eastern China as Typhoon Dolphin made landfall. The storm is packing wind speeds of 95 miles per hour and triggering heavy rains, halting transportation around the region, with 1,400 flights canceled in Shanghai alone. The storm is now moving inland within China, with weather officials warning of torrential rains, severe flooding, and the risk of landslides through to Wednesday. In Italy, an eruption of Mount Etna, Europe's most active volcano, is sending lava and plumes of ash over eastern Sicily. The eruption is affecting communities around the volcano and forced the nearby Catania airport to temporarily close, though the lava has remained largely in uninhabited areas of the mountain. Mount Etna has erupted continuously since January of this year. That's not unusual, according to scientists, though they add the activity can intensify without warning. And finally, a daring rescue at the end of the earth. An American suffering from a medical emergency was evacuated and airlifted from Antarctica.
A rare and daring mission to the bottom of the world, Antarctica, where an American working at the McMurdo Research Station needed urgent medical care. An Australian aircrew doing what few had done before, flying an Airbus A319 into extreme winter conditions and complete darkness for the evacuation.
On the way down, it was quite cold.
For the pilots, including a husband and wife team, that meant landing in minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit and worrying their fuel might freeze.
We were keen to get out of there as soon as possible, just to avoid any extra time on the ground.
The unidentified patient carried 2,300 miles to a hospital in New Zealand, and the U.S. National Science Foundation telling the Australian Broadcasting Corporation that they had been admitted in, quote, serious condition. McMurdo is the U.S.'s scientific hub, doing cutting-edge exploration into Antarctica's climate and ecosystems. Dr. Peter Neff has spent time there.
And it's a really extreme place where we're not fully in control because Mother Nature and the weather is the ultimate decider in Antarctica.
Details of the evacuation carried out over a week ago emerging only now, of an extraordinary flight to bring one American to safety.
Officials with the U.S. National Science Foundation are not commenting on the patient, citing privacy. But they also stress this was a very risky evacuation for the Australian team, given extreme conditions in Antarctica at the best of times, let alone during the middle of winter. Guys, back to you.
No kidding. Glad they got him out.
Wow,
All
incredible.
right, Janice, thank you so much. Coming up, another food source safety scare. This one coming straight from the company linked to that explosive cyclospora outbreak.
Why Taylor Farms is now slapping recalls on products made with its jalapeños. What you need to know before you head out on your next trip to the supermarket after this.
Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with a high-profile Democrat who could be weighing a run for president. NBC News politics reporter Megan Brand has that and other headlines. Megan, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, let's start with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is not ruling out running for president in 2028. In an interview on ABC, she first said that she was focused on winning the midterms, but asked again, she said that she has not ruled out the possibility. The Congresswoman said that she was humbled by the tremendous amount of support out there. Now, AOC is one of the most prominent progressives in the country, and she's worked to elect other progressives, including a recent Senate primary winner, Abdul El Sayed in Michigan. So let's turn next to Abdul El Sayed, who's now the Democratic nominee in the top Senate race, one of the top Senate races to watch this fall. He confirmed that he spoke with former President Barack Obama after winning the primary last week. El Sayed said on Meet the Press that he hopes Obama will join him out on the campaign trail and said that he was grateful for his advice. He said that the call was very warm and very inviting, but he declined to share details about what exactly was discussed. El Sayed will face off against Republican nominee Mike Rogers in what is expected to be a very competitive race in a top battleground state. Finally, let's go to Congressman Max Miller, who is facing domestic violence allegations, which he denies. Indiana Senator Jim Banks, who's a Republican, said on Meet the Press that the congressman should resign if the allegations against him are true. Banks also said that Miller should drop his re-election bid if he's endangering that congressional seat and because of the allegations. A handful of other Republican lawmakers have also called on Miller to step aside in the wake of the allegations. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Joe?
All right, Megan, thank you. Produce supplier Taylor Farms is facing another food safety scare this morning. This time, it's salmonella. Nearly 24 products made with jalapeños are being pulled from shelves. That includes dips, salsas, and guacamole. This voluntary recall comes just weeks after the company was linked to that cyclospora outbreak. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson has the latest. Ann, good morning.
Hey there, this is just the latest hit in a wave of food safety concerns and yet another blow for one of the nation's biggest producers of vegetables. Once more, a major warning for everyone to check their refrigerators and get ready to toss out even more. This morning, another recall over foodborne illness fears. Taylor Farms overnight announcing a voluntary recall of products made with jalapeno peppers because of possible links to salmonella, impacting customers in 26 states.
I would like to be able to purchase stuff without having to worry.
The new recall includes dips, burritos, and salsa sold in popular stores like Kroger, Target, Trader Joe's, Walmart, and Whole Foods. Taylor Farms says they are not aware of any reported illnesses linked to its products containing jalapenos. The same company recalled products last month during the outbreak of cyclospora tied to iceberg lettuce grown in central Mexico. But now concerns about salmonella are on the rise.
We've got this problem with salmonella contamination, possibly involving jalapeno peppers.
Officials have been investigating the multi-state outbreak tied to peppers grown in Sinaloa, Mexico. Mexico is where more than half of all vegetables imported to the U.S. are grown. Mexican-style restaurant chains Qdoba and Chipotle announced last week they were protectively removing the suspected jalapenos from their menus. Over the weekend, the FDA also issuing a public health alert about meat and poultry products sold in multiple stores, including Albertsons, H-E-B, and Wawa. That warning mentioning products like wraps, bowls, and salsa containing jalapenos that may be contaminated. Officials urging consumers to check their fridge and freezers and throw out anything that may be affected. According to Taylor Farms, the latest product recalls have a best if used by date up to and including August 16th. They also say they are no longer sourcing products from a specific farmer in Mexico who could be a source. And they will be filling orders from alternative suppliers. Back to you.
All right, Ann, thank you. As you can imagine, this surge in foodborne illness outbreaks across the country is raising questions about some of the summer staples in the produce aisle. So NBC News' Dr. Akshay Sayal breaks down which foods are safe to eat right now and which ones you should maybe stay away from.
Call it the summer of the stomach bug.
I am on day 17 of this parasite, and I'm not having a good time.
From cyclospora to salmonella, some of the fresh foods that are staples of summer have been linked to outbreaks sickening thousands of Americans.
In your experience, have you ever seen an outbreak of this magnitude before?
I've never seen an outbreak of cyclosporiasis of this magnitude before. We've had other foodborne outbreaks that cover many states, but this is very distinctive for cyclosporiasis, that's for sure.
Nearly every state has been hit with cyclospora, except for Delaware, Hawaii, and Montana. The CDC says they've confirmed more than 10,000 cases, with 12,000 more under investigation. Unusual for a parasite that usually affects fewer than 3,000 people a year. Then, just as the cyclospora outbreak appeared to be winding down, another threat, salmonella, with outbreaks linked to eggs and jalapeno peppers. The case is related to jalapeños spreading across 27 states. Restaurant chains, including Chipotle and Qdoba, pulling some Mexican-grown peppers. That's because, in both outbreaks, investigators have traced some of the suspected produce back through a complicated supply chain which sources produce from Mexico. The U.S., in general, relies heavily on Mexico for fresh produce. More than 60% of imported vegetables come from there. Barbara Kowalczyk is a food safety expert at George Washington University.
We have not invested in food safety the way we should. And we haven't invested in our public health systems around food safety the way we should. And that has led to these big outbreaks.
She says what we're seeing could be the result of recent cuts by the administration.
Cutting public health preparedness funding on the surface may seem like it's not a factor, but modernizing IT systems used at the state and local level impacts food safety. Making cuts at USAID that result in surveillance programs going away in Central America can impact food safety.
The administration, however, has said that the cuts have had no impact. But the ripple effect has gone far beyond the products actually linked to the outbreaks. Fear and confusion are leading some Americans to avoid entire categories of food, hurting growers who had nothing to do with the outbreak. Now there are some small signs of improvement. Michigan saying new cases of cyclospora are declining and lifting its warning on bagged lettuce. Still, Kowalczyk says people who are particularly vulnerable to foodborne disease, like very young children, seniors, and pregnant women, may want to be careful.
The most important thing consumers can do to protect themselves is be aware, ask questions if you don't know where the produce came from. I always say, when in doubt, throw it out.
Sound advice there. Thanks to Dr. Sayal for that report. Coming up, another dose of high-tech controversy combining AI with drones. Turns out a simple code generated by artificial intelligence can turn a $100 consumer craft into a modern-day stalking machine. Why does it even exist? Got that conversation next. We're back with a new research project that seems like the plot of a sci-fi thriller. A team of researchers in San Francisco prompted AI to write code that could fly a drone and, get this, make it stalk someone using facial recognition. The team used publicly available AI models from companies like Anthropic and OpenAI to write software powering a drone that stalks a human target. In an exclusive interview, one of the lead researchers told NBC News that the work highlights how fast some AI technology is advancing, in some cases even outpacing human engineers. NBC News AI reporter Jared Perlow is here with more on his exclusive reporting. Jared, good to have you with us. So this project, it's called Drone Bench. What's the goal here? How exactly does this work?
So the goal here is to evaluate just how well AI systems are performing a range of tasks, in this case, controlling a drone. So there are many such evaluations, also called benchmarks. OpenAI or Anthropic, these big AI companies, they'll do these tests to see what their AI systems can actually do, maybe solving math problems, conducting cybersecurity research. In this case, the researchers wanted to understand how AI systems can control a drone. So there was 5 steps: reconstructing a physical map of an environment, localizing where a drone is flying around within that map, navigating that space, then detecting somebody in that space and tracking that person as they walked around an office. So I got a firsthand view of this. I was out in their office. It's a small research startup called Andon Labs. They gave it a picture of my face. The drone system downloaded, the AI system downloaded from the internet, and then it tracked me around the room. Totally AI coded. Pretty surprising for today's day and age.
This team has several different projects going on right now. An AI-run boutique in San Francisco, an AI-managed cafe in Stockholm, some AI-powered vending machines. So why drones?
Well, I think there's two key parts here. So one is that drones just exist in the physical world. So today's AI systems are getting increasingly good at performing a range of virtual tasks. Again, there's been lots of news about cybersecurity risks, and AI can help you draft an email or write an essay, but can actually do things, control real objects in the physical world. That's one reason why they went after drones. And the other fact is that drones are just ubiquitous, and increasingly so. I think Americans we're not really exposed to them every single day, but if you look at the war in Ukraine, I was just in China on a reporting trip there, drones are everywhere. So I think these researchers say, extrapolate a year or two down the line, we're going to have to deal with drones existing in our physical space, buzzing around either at home, at work, in public places. So we should figure out how drones and AI systems really intersect.
Deliveries might be one of the areas where we start to see them most. I know one of the researchers says that AI often routinely outperforms humans on certain benchmarks. Help us understand what's important to know about that.
Yeah, so again, to gauge how well the AI systems did on this test, they compared it to how a human engineer performed the task. So the human engineer took about 2 weeks to code this thing from start to finish. The AI system beat that human on 4 of those 5 aspects that I just mentioned before. So I think zooming out, the significance here is saying, whoa, these are just off-the-shelf AI systems. They're not, anything behind closed doors. So if somebody can just direct an AI system to say, control this drone, download a picture of this target from the internet, and then follow them around, I think that speaks volumes about just how powerful today's AI systems are getting, and potentially thinking about the types of guardrails that might need to be implemented as a result.
Which begs the question, these AI models can be easy to access. Drones are pretty easy to buy nowadays. So how worrying is the risk that this all could get in the wrong hands?
I think the risk is growing by the day. We're seeing increased policy interest in this. There was just, an FCC action on drones a couple of months ago. Now, the researchers say that they performed this test not to encourage people to do this, because there certainly could be downsides. Like if they wanted to hurt me in their office, the drone could have just, kept flying into me. It was incredibly good at tracking me. They also say that there are upsides, like deliveries, as you said, potentially, ferrying medical supplies across different cities. So they say, we want to basically highlight exactly what AI is capable of today, and then it's up for voters at home, politicians, to really set out those guardrails, those policies to make sure that people don't use it for, untoward purposes.
The drone tracking you, is this why you got the haircut? Did it recognize this before or after the haircut?
It was before the haircut. We'll have to go back and test. Yeah.
Right, we have to see, does it know who Jared Perlow is?
Haircut by Propeller.
Looking sharp, though, by the way. It was a human haircut, but right? Not an AI haircut?
Time,
all right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Jared. Good to have you with us.
Thank you
So much. All right, it's time to bring out that special lucky charm. If you're waiting for tonight's Powerball lottery drawing, the estimated jackpot now up to nearly $1 billion. It's been several months since the last winning ticket was sold. Since then, there are even bigger winnings thanks to some ticket sales overseas. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch is down in Miami. The latest on this. Jesse, good morning. I think you have, as always, a friend. This is an old friend, right? This is like we're going back in time here, right?
At this point, Joe, yeah, at this point, we're old friends. So much so that I recognize that Powerball Willie got a new set of glasses, okay? That's a whole nother level of friendship. When I'm like, you look a little different. So here's why we know it is that time of year, because we are with the man, the myth, the legend himself. That just tells you we're talking about a major jackpot now. $905 million up for grabs right now, with the estimated lump sum, if you take the cash up front, around $390 million. Powerball says this is the 8th largest Powerball jackpot in the history of the game, but there's something even more historic going on here. We are looking at the first jackpot that could be won by someone across the pond. People in the United Kingdom can now play in the Powerball after the game recently expanded. But don't worry, Joe, I know what you're thinking. Your odds have not gotten any worse, even with more people able to play. There's still that very lucky chance of about 1 out of 292 million. Those are still your odds of winning this thing. But because you have more people involved, Powerball says we could expect to see the prizes growing faster as time moves on.
Jesse, tell me more, because I didn't realize this till last week about the UK now selling the tickets. How's that been going? How does it work?
Yeah. So it's new. This is, it recently expanded, and no one has won since that expansion happened. So, we'll have to wait and see. It'll be pretty funny to see if everyone's wondering which state someone won it in, and it's not here. It's like in Manchester, England, right? That would be pretty wild. But it's just that Powerball prize, the grand prize, that is the same for both here in the U.S. and in the UK. The lower level prizes are organized differently over there. So it's not exactly the same breakdown if you win one of those lower tier prizes, but we're all going for that same grand prize. Joe, right now it's about $905 million. I think after people see Powerball Willie getting in on the action this morning, those numbers might skyrocket even higher.
Yeah, no kidding. So if someone from the UK does win, I do hope you get to go over there and cover it. Wait until that person comes forward.
Exactly.
You know, I think that's an
it's a
important
given.
assignment for you. What are the tips? Remind us if you do happen, no matter where you live, to be that lucky ticket holder. The winning numbers are announced. You're like, oh my goodness, I won. What is it you should do?
Yeah, so a couple things to always keep in mind. You're going to want to take a photo of it front and back. I've also heard people saying go as far as taking a selfie with it so you can prove you're the one with that ticket. You're going to want to not do anything drastic. Experts say don't do anything big for 6 months even. So no major purchases. Go about your normal business. Keep going to work. So, Joe, you will see me back at work tomorrow one way or the other. Even if I win this thing tonight, you might want to seek out a financial advisor to figure out how to responsibly manage this money, and also find out if you even need to come forward in the state you live in, where you buy the ticket. Depending on how that unfolds, you may not have to come forward publicly to declare that you've won, and so you might be able to fly under the radar into the sunset, Joe.
Jesse, we always say how the winner's life changes, but how has Powerball Willie's life changed in the last year?
Let's ask Willie. Joe, our anchor in New York, is wondering, how has your life changed since your skyrocketing stardom over the last year with all this?
I mean, it's been awesome. I got to do a lot of things. I've been recognized in a lot of places.
There we go.
I can't go wrong. No matter where I go, somebody say, hey, it's Powerball Willie.
We love it.
It's been nice to be known around the city for something different.
There you go. There you go. And hopefully you're going to sell the winning ticket one of these days.
There, hopefully I sell it to myself.
I think he sold it to me an hour ago, Joe.
Hopefully. He's already won the jackpot. Look at this. He's famous now. All right, Jesse Kirsch, Powerball Willie, thank you both. Appreciate it. Coming up, we got an emotional reunion only made possible by a desperate call for help. The Disney animator who's meeting back up with his rescuers after a hiking trip that turned terrifying. That's next on Morning News Now. We're going to end this hour with a mountainside drama turned into a heartwarming reunion. An award-winning Disney animator was hiking with his family in Arizona when the terrain just got too difficult to continue. Jade Cunningham from our Phoenix affiliate has the story.
Thank you very much, Justin.
Two little words.
To Justin.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
That for Glenn Keene.
So the guy that received you at the helicopter was this guy.
Carries a lifetime of gratitude.
I mean, I've animated dramatic, wonderful moments at the end of Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and Tarzan and Aladdin. And that's nothing compared to being the object of such self-sacrifice.
On July 29th, the 72-year-old Disney legend and animator was hiking Mummy Mountain with his grandkids when he realized he needed help.
This rocky Stegosaurus ridge, and I got to that, I can't make this next gap, and that gap was a terrifically dangerous one.
A helicopter was called in.
We could tell he was in a weird spot.
The rescue was technical.
And they were only maybe 30 feet above us. Usually they're a lot higher. So our concerns there were rotor wash, the wind blowing us around. We just made sure all the guys were in safe locations so that nobody slipped.
But successful.
His rescue was no different than the ones that we do. It was just on a different mountain in a different position.
I think it's probably the most difficult thing for somebody to say, I can't, I need help. And I got to that point, and I was just so thankful that there was somebody that I could call. Hey, Patrick.
Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Finally, I could see, without the helmet and everything.
Yeah.
On Friday, Keene shook the hands of his rescuers.
I can't just go off into the sunset and be happy. I felt like I really needed to say thank you, to what you guys did. So, thank you, all of you.
And gifted them something.
There's Steve. You're in here, dude.
To show his appreciation.
He's super thankful, and it's nice for our guys to hear it because we don't hear that ever.
And then maybe there's a movie next.
I wouldn't go that far. It wasn't that great.
For Keene, though, it was.
I've done a lot of animated fairy tales, but this was a real life one. And I really wanted just to see the crew who were responsible for that.
And as he thanked each one,
thank you, guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It created a moment that no one there will ever forget.
What a touching gift there, too. Our thanks to Jade Cunningham for sharing that story. Keene's experience is a touching reminder of the impact first responders have, as humble as they might be, on the lives of the people they save. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.